Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Finish what we started. You know, we know that's a good second half team, so we got to make sure we hold them off, and we got to play aggressive, but we got to play sound football.
Starting out inside the 15, Thompson. He's going to launch it deep downfield, right in stride. Trey Palmer is gone. Touchdown, Nebraska. One play, 87 yards. 1 for 4 today on third down after a bobbled snap, and now it's free. And it's picked up by Garrett Nelson. Second forced turnover by this Nebraska defense. Looking for the end zone. Wide open, caught. It's Palmer again. His second of the half. And Nebraska right now is rolling in Iowa City. Thompson was looking that way. It's caught. It's not Palmer. This time it's Marcus Washington. His former Texas teammate is in. And it's 23-0. Padilla gets the snap. Huskers do not blitz. Back to throw is Padilla. Steps, throws, passes, intercepted by Nebraska at the 36-yard line by Chris Kolarvik. Coming back home to the state of Iowa for Kolarvik, a pick to end the game. And that will end the 7-year streak the Huskers have suffered at the hands of the Hawkeyes.
Those were your highlights from the win against Iowa last Friday. A big win for this Nebraska group in their regular season finale. It's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers. We are pleased to have you here for our inaugural show. And DB, what a long time coming it's been to get here.
Yeah, it seems like I know it's that song, we've only just begun, but we have been together for a while, right? Doing a variety of things.
A couple of months
now. And I see you every day, so it's
Is that a problem?
It's good now to actually
you have to see. You have to. Does it make you like a little sad that you have to look at this every day?
Yeah,
it does.
See, like, perfect.
I mean, is that because like I'm just so
eyebrows.
crazy good looking?
Yeah. That's that. Now,
that's the reason.
So when the show was first, thought about, I was thinking, you know what? That's going to be the jam right there. It's just the good-looking Andrew. Actually, not at all. It never once crossed my mind. But, hey, I don't
know. I don't know what you think about in the morning. And if you think about me, that's pretty weird.
Shower music.
Well, I mean, you have a crazy booklet of songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
do.
Everything can be attributed back to a song for you.
So
if you had a song for Iowa's win on Friday, what would be played?
Rise Up, Andre Day.
At least you didn't say We Are the Champions. That would have been a little cliche.
You only have 4 wins. No, Rise Up, right? Broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round. You can be inspired. I see you so we can work it out, move mountains. And in the short term, they kind of did. You kept a rival from playing for a Big Ten West championship. You rallied one more time. The psychological warfare that Coach Joseph and his staff went through to get Nebraska to that point with a MASH unit. No Luke Reimer. Tiva Clements had to play. Ernest Hausman. You went young inside against a team that you knew was going to run the football at you. There was just a lot going on in that one. And Nebraska stayed focused. So it was a win-win-win-win-win.
The win was a blessing for this program. It really was. This was a win Nebraska needed. There have been so many moments throughout the years where this team and its fan base were holding their breath as the game went on, in fear that they were going to lose.
Yeah.
And in more cases than not, they did lose. But eventually,
losing is contagious.
Yeah.
The whole pocket of Nebraska's fan base, because there was a smattering throughout Kinnick. And it seemed like they waited until the very last minute to cheer. It was in there and you wanted to be excited, but you had been conditioned over the last 5 years to find a way to lose those.
It was amazing how many people I saw tweet during that game and basically say, like, don't get comfortable being up 24-0.
Yeah.
It's amazing to say that, to think like that. But eventually you had to believe greener pastures were ahead. It just took a moment like this to get there. We've all experienced moments like that before, whether it's in, Little League or, you ended up playing at college or the highest level. But this win strikes a much needed belief back into this program and for the future. And it couldn't have come at a better time because now you're starting to count your blessings. You get this win against Iowa, and it's not like Iowa was a bum team this year. No. As you said, they were competing for the West title. They may have lost to one of the worst Nebraska football teams in a while, and that just goes to show that no matter who you put out on the field, if you have that fight and you have that belief, you can win games.
Yeah, and I think for Nebraska, if we just focus on that, like the job that the staff did, you and I talk, you see me every day, so like you kind of know how I feel about this, and hadn't been on social media a ton the last 2-3 months, and outside of Betting Bites and our 6-packs, right, there wasn't a lot of, hey, what do you think? So I told you, just this staff's ability to get these guys to rise to the occasion was eye-popping alone. I'm around them enough just to get them to dial in one practice at a time, one game at a time was nothing short of amazing. I told the story on air during the broadcast. I was eating with Mickey on Saturday, and it was early. There were only a handful of guys in there, and most of them are staff, right before the doors open for the players, and they don't all come down on time. They kind of trickle in. And, I said to Mickey, he was sitting next to Greg Sharp, and I said, gosh, you're always smiling. There's that smile. And he said, DB. That's what he always says. DB, it's game day. I'm getting a chance to coach these kids. I'm with my family. I'm always going to smile because I love to compete. And I'm just thinking to myself, right? That's what you do.
What a winner.
You shake your head like, wow. I shake my head because I'm in amazement, but
at the same time, how can you always be smiling through the trials and tribulations of this year?
That's just who he is. It's exactly who he is, and I think that's why the team responded the way that they did.
And then on Saturday came an announcement that was kind of sourced for a long time, or for a long time, I should say, for a couple of days, but it felt like an eternity.
For sure, a couple of weeks. And I think a couple. We can get into that.
Well, and how crazy of Trev Alberts to kind of keep his mouth shut throughout this entire process, keep people wondering who it was going to be. And I don't know if this was true or not, but I was talking with some buddies that also have a podcast on the Hurrdat Sports Network, and they were saying that, maybe it was Trev's agenda to kind of wean out people in his athletic department that he could trust, with saying, like, I don't know if he threw a name this direction and then, now it's on social media. So he's like, I don't know if I can trust this guy anymore. And then, here's another name that he's tossing around. But nobody really knew. Nobody. People had their guesses, but nobody was dead set in their ways of knowing exactly who Trev was going to hire.
Yeah, I think all things considered, like, let's just factor in what he's told us from the jump, and it being about the student athletes and putting them in a position where he feels like the student athletes on campus can experience success and enjoy the college experience. He handled the coaching search the exact same way. For as many distractions as social media and sometimes media and sometimes wherever else you like to gossip and rumor monger, publicly, this was about as tight-lipped and non-distracting as you're going to see his coaching search be at the University of Nebraska, all while trying to support his interim head coach, all while trying to win football games. I just want people to take a step back for a second, and whether you like Nebraska or you don't like Nebraska, you got to give the devil his due in terms of how this was handled. And the current team still was allowed to function and dial in. Whether you like the hire or not, the process, as from a process guy, was unbelievable. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He kept these guys dialed in, was motivating, was still meeting with Mickey, was still giving support to the staff, all while conducting a search on the back end that very, very, very few people knew anything about.
Give him a ton of credit, because he put the focus where it was needed every single day. And he kept the focus on Nebraska as a team over the outside noise that was kind of following. And you brought up a great point. Is he a good hire or is he not? And that's what we want to hear from you out there. Throughout the show, let us know. Dial in 888-638-HVRN. That's 4876. Again, the listener line, 888-638-4876. Call us. Let us know what you think. Do you think Matt Rhule was a good hire for this program? For me, I think it's exactly what Nebraska needs. I think it's a slam dunk.
No. Good hire, really good hire. We'll wait and see on the slam dunk part. I mean, I could see that. Just talking, I tried to do my due diligence. And for me, this was kind of cool because, and I think our listeners will figure this out about me, I'm always going to listen, right? And because I may be able to learn something, even if I disagree with it. So a lot of times when I'm kind of parsing through this information, I'm pitting guys that have had experience with them at the collegiate level, guys that have had experience with at the professional level. and then trying to formulate with what I already think. And so I think in a couple of areas, he's exactly what Nebraska needs. And in a couple of other areas, I'm in wait and see mode. Number one, he identifies and develops. He appears to be a guy, just listening to him, watching what he did at Temple, watching what he did at Baylor, looking at the rosters. He appears to be a guy that is driven by development. He loves to get guys better.
Which is why I think he wasn't a good NFL coach.
I'm going to get into that because I 100% agree with you. And the other thing is he gets guys to move on to have chances to play football at another level, which we kind of poo-poo it, but it's important. The more all-conference caliber guys you have, the better your teams are, the more guys will want to come to your school. So I think he hits those. Now, how he does the day-to-day, not always the most warm and fuzzy guy. But you know what? I'm not sure we need warm and fuzzy right now because you have really good administration. You need some structure and discipline. It needs structure and discipline because I think one of the stark contrasts between the former regime and Coach Joseph was the day-to-day. You're going to be here at this time. This is what we do. This is how we're going to do it. And I think it was a little bit of an adjustment period for the kids. And so that part needs to continue. And I think you're going to get that with Coach Rhule. Now, how he'll go over with guys in the building, I don't know. I mean, everybody's different. What I don't like to do is to think that people can't be lifelong learners. Just because Coach Rhule or somebody was a certain way someplace else doesn't always mean it's that linear that they'll be, and that's to the good and to the bad, by the way. That it'll be portable, right? Sometimes people learn along the way and you do things differently. So I'm reserving judgment, but for what I think Nebraska needed and how they went about doing it, I think it was a fantastic hire. And let's not undersell the fact the market apparently was a lot more volatile than we thought in terms of coaches' services. So when you look at the dynamics of how the games were being played, you get why guys popped back up on the radar late. The Klymans who had originally maybe had, I'm good. Or the Luke Fickles who popped up out of nowhere, who was apparently on the market
the whole time. That situation striked me.
I think Trev did a fantastic job.
And he got his guy, right? That he had his guy locked up. And people out there will say, well, I mean, you could have gotten Luke Fickle or you could have gotten this guy. It's like, but no, think about if Trev were to sit on his hands and wait.
He stayed out of the fray and did his business.
And by doing so, you get the guy off of the list first, and now you're causing other teams to maybe panic.
Yeah, they're rallying a little.
And
look what happened at Wisconsin.
Tossing money around.
Look what happened at Wisconsin.
It's the exact spot.
Yeah, there's a reason I think Coach Fickle's name came up as late as it did. And I think he made it.
It was kind of a desperation play.
So, and I kind of got a sense over the last couple of weeks how this works. And 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago to the day, I had a current head coach around the country text me that his agents were hearing that it was Matt Rhule to Nebraska. And I'm thinking to myself,
touchdown, Nebraska!
Exactly. I had to go back and check.
How long ago was that? 2 weeks, you said?
The exact date. Well, here,
This is great radio.
Well, no, you're not going to get it anywhere else.
No, exactly. So you got to wait and see.
So as far as that, like, it is great. That was. Oh, and I have to scroll. Scrolling. Fantastic radio. Fantastic radio.
This just shows how strong of a relationship you have.
Saturday, November 13th. I will cross. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
I was going to cross out the name. But, I mean.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So that was November 13th. Right?
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, things travel, but you never know. Because
there was just so many reports out there.
Oh, yeah. Didn't like this number, going back to do this. Like, there was a lot, and so we just kind of stayed out of it.
We touched on it a little bit on Morning Dumb, but we never really.
But that's not my jam, right? And I typically don't like to talk about things like that unless I have.
Yeah, speculation is speculation, right?
Yeah, and
you can talk about it so much.
So the good and the bad with me, the way that my mind works. I almost don't allow myself to entertain things I don't think are possible. Not that I'm not a dreamer, but I'm a realist in terms of how much energy I give to thought. So if I don't, hey, what do you think about Coach Urban Meyer, for example? I don't, because that's not a thing. That was never a thing. So I don't. So if you ask me about that, I'm just going to tell you, listen, it's not a thing for me. So I don't. It's things like that make these coaches' searches, difficult. And now we're just kind of in a wait and see mode. I know he's talked with Mickey. He's trying to put together his staff. He's got a couple of guys that he's bringing over already, strength and conditioning potentially. Coach Knighton, who's coming over with him from
that guy was huge.
Well, you seen a strength and conditioning guy?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Knighton.
I'm talking about first guy.
He's an NFL D lineman
I'm talking about first guy.
Like,
I'm talking about the guy that's shredded, that gets oiled up on the weekends.
Which kind of let me know that
poses.
Coach Rhule he's known for a while, obviously, as you're kind of putting together this staff. And so, I mean, we'll see what happens in terms of how to round it out. But for how the search was done, given the volatility of the market, whether you're Arizona State or Auburn or Wisconsin, Nebraska, in my opinion, played it correctly.
And don't fall into the trap of he didn't have success in the NFL. I know he started there.
So I'll entertain that, right? What's the phone number again? I have to memorize that because
888-638-4876.
They're different animals. I've been cutting enough NFL locker rooms to know.
Completely different. And I haven't been in an NFL locker room before.
It's apples to oranges. And I'm not. Listen, I'm not. There's some things that he's got to be responsible for in terms of what was going on in that building. It's my old organization, by the way, the Carolina Panthers. And so just talking to enough guys, I think they're apples to oranges. Now, one thing I do think I have a pretty good feel for, you better be pulling in that direction or you're going to find something else different to do.
Well, and you talk about development.
That's for sure.
You talk about development and that being his biggest strength. And at the NFL level, you don't need to develop that much anymore. They're there. They're at the NFL for a reason. Now, when you get like newbies that come in out of college and they're rookies.
And maybe he's a guy that's better with young guys than old guys.
And I think that's exactly it. Because when you bring in, say, a quarterback, which they really didn't have. So, I mean, don't fault Matt Rhule too much when it comes to dissecting his record, because he was essentially set up to fail when he was in Carolina. And they had a very good defense, but they didn't have a new young quarterback that he had to pull out of high school and then evolve him to work in college. It's from college to the NFL, and you're playing with the best of the best at this point. And some coaches just don't fit in the NFL. And there have been plenty of cases where that has happened. And I'm going to throw out a name that was tossed around during the entire coaching search, and that was Lane Kiffin. Mm-hmm. When Lane Kiffin went to the NFL, he then retracted back to college. And I want to put this prompt out for maybe people out there, and this may put your mind at ease a little bit. Would it be better for a hire like Lane Kiffin to come in, but he had extra college coaching experience since moving away from the NFL, and that makes you feel better about the decision? Or do you jump on it early and take Matt Rhule?
I don't know. I think sometimes it's all about fit, right?
100%. That's what it's about.
Because for Lane, and I know a lot of Nebraska fans, at least early on in the process, I still like Lane Kiffin, right?
I love him. I love following him on Twitter.
It's kind of on the Lane train early. In my initial top 5, he was in my top 5.
Who was my number 1?
I can't remember, but do you know who was not in my top 5?
Matt Rhule.
Matt Rhule.
And you know who was my number 1?
Matt Rhule.
Matt Rhule.
Correct. So when I go back, that seems like so long
It was not that long ago either. And this was like maybe a month ago that we had this convo.
And outside of Kiffin, I kind of was basing what I liked in terms of what I knew about watching guys recruit and how they recruit and what I thought their program would embody. So that was kind of who would I want to represent the university behind the scenes if this was going to be their personality. So that's because I think I know or have a decent idea what this program needs. And like I said, it needs structure, it needs discipline, and it needs confidence, which is strangely enough why I think Coach Joseph got those guys to play the way that they did, because those are things that he embodies, right? When you look at a guy like Bill Bush, really relational.
Do you
Got
think
some
Bill
no-
Bush should be back on staff too? Do you think Matt Rhule should?
Now that
keep him there?
I don't know, but I will say this about sometimes I call him B2B. Just
At least you don't call him Bushy.
no. B2, B squared. The job that he did, because it didn't manifest itself in a ton of wins, the job that he did will be so grossly underappreciated, it's not even funny.
I don't think people even think today and go back on how good this Nebraska defense has been.
And how bad it was, right? Do you remember Oklahoma? Do you remember Northwestern?
I mean, we'll throw in Georgia Southern in there too.
The job that I marvel, and I'm a scheme guy. Like, I like schematics, but you know my favorite thing? This is going to sound crazy. I'm a coach. Hey, what do my guys do well? Oh, you do that well? Let's play that way. As opposed to, because it's hard, and I've been there. This is what I know, so this is what I have to teach. He kind of got out of the box and was creative. Like, he turned Miles Farmer's season around in a couple of weeks.
In a blink of an eye.
And remember, Miles Farmer was the guy. He was the whipping boy because everybody was like, well, what did he just say about tackling? And he's not that guy. And he had a bad last third of the season last year. I mean, Miles Farmer and Buford, you could make the case that those two guys, their upward ascent the last half of the season was unbelievable.
Insane. It was absolutely nuts. Our poll question of the day, how do you take your coffee? I think it's fitting for this morning. Do you take it with cream? Of course. Iced or Irish? We'll get into those results at the end of the show. Coming up next, we'll talk more Matt Rhule and more of your thoughts. Send in those calls. Give us a call, 888-638-4876. Here on Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Coffee, and Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, one thing you're going to like about Shane, his musical taste is fantastic.
It's back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Your calls, that's what we want to hear. What do you think about Matt Rhule at the helm of Nebraska for the immediate future? Well, at least almost a decade he'll be here. As far as his contract is laid out.
I'll tell you what. Did 8 years seem like a long time?
I thought so. But at the same time, the math checked out when it came to how much money he'd be making per year.
Yeah, so the funny thing for me is, I don't know. I think I'm either ridiculously naive, a glutton for punishment, just a fan of the alma mater, maybe all of the above. But I'm going to support whoever is in the chair. And so if you want to stay and you're winning, stay as long as you'd like. If it's not going the way that we want it to, then we got to have some speaks. But up until that, I'm supporting whomever. That's just how I go.
Let's hear from some of our listeners out there on line one. We have Michigan Lance. Lance, thanks for joining us. First caller on Coffee and Cream. We got the hold on symbol. We're getting there.
We got the hold on. This is Michigan Lance is gracing us with his presence. Shane, you want to punch Michigan Lance up for us? He said, yeah.
We got him.
Michigan Lance, you there?
I am.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm on. Hey, I'm feeling. Hey, I'm like that Tony song. With DB's back on the air with live radio.
Feels good.
Go ahead, cue that up, man.
Oh, man.
Live radio where there's back and forth. You know what I mean? That's what I heard you on. I've been listening to you on the Nebraska broadcast. I've actually been listening. I haven't even been watching the game. So, because that's been better than watching the game, man. And you've done a great job with that. So glad to hear you back. And and have you back, my brother.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I've got a good partner who he's kind of funny. I'll be curious to see how you guys get along because he's kind of combative too. So you guys should have a ton of fun going back and forth. You're not going to talk him into much.
Hey, Andrew, I don't know you. Never heard of you until now, but hey, congratulations on your new job as well.
Hey, thank you, man.
Yeah, I did. Now, I did hear you sneaking there to DB the other day on your podcast about, oh, yeah, DB I heard you, DB. Hey, you like to get after it and you stick to your point. And we'll see when it comes to Michigan land.
Hey,
everybody thinks they're combative until they go against me.
Hey, so listen, so you got to be on cloud 9 after watching what the Wolverines did to Ohio State. Just messing up the landscape of the college football playoffs again.
Man, hey, here's where I was first happy, and then we'll go back to it. But I'm first happy that the way Coach Joseph went out with that victory. I was a Nebraska fan while he was the head coach there, and so I was really happy about that win. And then Michigan comes and does what I thought they would do, except for a little bit different. I didn't know. I'm glad he got away from the run early. They made a good adjustment and saying, "Oh, okay, if you're going to cross the box, we believed in JJ. That's why he got the starting nod in the first place, and it showed why. And I also loved it because DB, I know you love the way Michigan has been playing the last 2 years, and I know especially this year." The type of style that you like, you really liked it. So that made me feel good as well.
And I thought all year, and Andrew and I were talking about this, I felt like they were the most complete team in the Big Ten. And I felt like that for weeks. They're just better in the trenches. I like their defense better. And Ohio State, like their play calling and getting away from the run game. Now, I know they're like on their 55th running back, but still.
Right.
I just like the way Michigan plays, and I appreciate I appreciate the love for Mickey too, because it's I don't know if hard is the word, but he's such a good friend. We're awfully close, so I'm cheering for what he wants, right? And
trying to find that balance.
The balance in terms of cheering for my alma mater too. So it's hard for me to sometimes be a grown up, but. He's got a lot of opportunities, man, and Coach Rhule is trying hard, so I'm pretty optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, and with Mickey, it's like, well, let me go back to the trenches part. Like with Michigan, like I told you last year with Severe. Remember, Severe thought I was crazy, and I said Ohio State's done. Ryan Day, I said they're not going to beat Michigan because of I saw the way their line play was. And then they went, and that was last year. And then they went out to correct their defense. They went out and got a defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State, the Big 12. When does the Big 12 ever play defense? Never.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that guy isn't going to stop Michigan. I was like, yeah, they're going in the wrong direction. And so I knew that. And then with Mickey, it's okay to cheer for somebody that you know. Like, it's okay to be biased sometimes, DB. You're not biased all the time. It's okay to be biased. And I think, and I was biased too, and not in the way that you think. I don't know Mickey. I never talked to Mickey in my life. Outside of being a black coach, that's the only thing we have in common. And I root for black coaches. But that wasn't the reason I felt he should be the next Nebraska head coach. I felt he should have been the next head coach because there's a certain way you have to be at Nebraska. You have to be comfortable with all the eyeballs on you. And then you have to be comfortable with being the man. And that's whether being the man as win or lose. And you saw that in Mickey. He was comfortable being the man, win or lose. And so that's a tough thing, man, to do at Nebraska. And I thought with his recruiting ability on a bigger landscape, because I think that's what Nebraska needs as a face. And then I thought that there were some things with assistance that he has connections with the NFL where he could have brought his brother and maybe another, like, Mickey has a lot of connections, man, and it's not just with Keith.
Yes.
And so that's what was gonna scare. That's what would have scared me with that hire. Luke Fickell would have gave me a little bit of nervousness as well. At Nebraska, I don't know as much as Wisconsin, but at Nebraska for sure. Because
how about how Nebraska
and
how about how Nebraska stayed out of the fray though? Low key kind of got their guy, and they didn't get into the scramble that some of these other schools. I mean, good luck piecing Wisconsin back together. But hey, big fella, I appreciate the call, man. I know you'll be a regular. Hopefully, Florida's treating you well, my guy.
Hey, glad you guys are back. Hey, congratulations on state championship too, brother.
Hey, appreciate that. Thank you.
Michigan Lance.
All right, Andrew, have a good one.
Let's go to line 2 before we wrap up segment 2 here. Lance on the hire of Matt Rhule. Lance, you there?
Lance 2. Lance.
Hey,
Lance
guys.
to the power 2.
Yes, it's Lance.
What's up, big fella?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. You know, before I get started, I wanted to say it was like WCW and The Undertaker when I heard Shane and you guys this morning.
He's back.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach for Rhule. I have mixed feelings with him and what I think he's capable of and what the value we're playing. And my biggest concern is his staff.
Yeah.
And the hiring of Knighton maybe kind of gives me a little trepidation to what we're going to see. But
is that from a recruiting standpoint?
I think all around. I think you talk to a guy that's never been in a D1 room and recruited D1 guys, and you know he's got playing history, but I don't know if he's ever coached a college athlete outside of Wagner for 2 years. So, and that's especially given his salary pool that Rhule has. So if you're really talking $7 to $9 million, you know,
that's a big.
That's
a big pool.
Yep.
That's exactly what Ohio State
does.
does.
You guys, and I'll be a loyal listener and wish you guys the best, and hopefully Rhule turns up aces.
Hey,
you've always supported me, Lance.
I don't knock
appreciate
your
that.
cautiousness either.
No, I think he's right, and he's smart. So one thing about Lance is, well, actually both of them, super well connected. Like, you know, he's a guy that I talk to quite a bit, like off air. And he's fairly well connected, and I think he knows a lot what he's talking about. So there'll be some times that he'll call and he'll throw out some numbers or some things behind the scenes. You're going to be like, wait, how did you know? Trust me.
Hey, I appreciate
Bulk
both of
Dog
them,
knows.
Michigan Lance and Lance Squared,
Yeah.
coming on the show early on here on Coffee and Cream. Press conference for Matt Rhule coming up today at 1:30. Maybe at that point, your mind can be put at ease for those out there that are taking the wait-and-see approach. But coming up next, we kind of alluded to it with Michigan Lance, but let's talk a little bit about the college football playoff shakeup and how teams are bouncing in and out of the top 4. That's next on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back.
Oh, yeah, man, how you doing? You good? I know you like that.
It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. We appreciate you listening here for our inaugural show. DB, Andrew Rogers. Let's talk college football and the shakeup that, I guess we'll just say it's like a Yahtzee game, right? You put the dice in the container, you shake it up, and you roll, and now it's a grouping of new teams. Who would have thought that Michigan would have completely destroyed Ohio State?
Not destroyed, but you had one guy that liked Michigan.
Well, I liked Michigan too. Can I be two guys? And we had Michigan Lance, maybe three guys that liked Michigan in this game. I could not believe that they were 8.5-point underdogs.
And got as high as 9.5, depending on what you felt about Corum. And I remember saying this during the broadcast when Nebraska played Michigan, and I said to Sharpie, to Greg, I said, no disrespect to Blake Corum because he's fantastic, but all their running backs look the same. Kudos to Mike Hart.
Good line play.
Their
helps that
offensive line coach. These guys, they get skinny. They the little subtle shoulder turns. They fall forward.
Well, and their running backs aren't the biggest either.
No, they are. That's the offense. That's the offense that I like. Run action.
It's the one to
heavy
be
run action
at Nebraska for the future.
And taking your deep shots off of run action. A lot like Georgia. Big fan of Georgia's offense, and people think I'm crazy. But that's the way that I would play.
Well, I'm with you with Georgia, too. I mean, I said it last week. I'll say it again. They're a step up above every program out there.
So even their zone games has motion. You get multiple guys in the backfield. Your quarterback has to be athletic, but he's not like the guy in the run game. And you take shot plays, right? And they got good tight end play, which the last 4 or 5 years, welcome back to football, college football, the tight ends. Thought they were going away for a while. Everybody was going 10 personnel. Tight ends are back.
Add that into what happened in the NFL yesterday. Every tight end seemed to catch a touchdown.
It's such a hard matchup, right? I mean, because you need – not everybody has a Derwin James, right? And those are the guys
Absolute
that you
beast.
need to handle tight ends. So it's like, welcome back.
You have Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC at the point in their seasons to where they control their own destiny.
I think that's how it's going to finish.
It's the conference champions, right? If all four of these teams win their conference championship, that's how it settles in.
Although, leave it to my guy, Coach Kleiman, to put a Cheerio in the bowl of Fruity Pebbles and have somehow K-State knock off TCU. But it seems like this is how it's going to finish.
And here's where things get dicey, though.
I mean, does LSU have anything for Georgia?
Well, that's where, scenarios can be tossed around. Like, if LSU wins, where does Georgia fall? They don't fall out of the top 25. Top 25, top 4. That would be ridiculous. But what if USC loses in the Pac-12 championship game? What if TCU loses the Big 12 championship game?
I think USC, and it's not just because I'm a USC fan. That is, I don't know if you know
Caleb
this.
Williams is going to win the Heisman?
Well, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. They're better. They're better than I think we're giving them credit for. Well, Notre Dame is
defensively
but they stood up.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Defensively, that's where they get their biggest knock. All of those games end up being close for that USC team.
They stood up in battle.
Think about how Oklahoma was under Lincoln Riley.
I know it.
And Alex Grinch, right? Those defenses were always led by a great standout quarterback. You start with Baker Mayfield, you go to Kyler Murray, you take on Jalen Hurts, and now you have Caleb Williams.
I'm with you.
Like, you get one of those top quarterbacks in there, and you don't need a great defense when you have a guy that's Heisman caliber leading your football team.
He's way good.
He runs around like Patrick Mahomes. I know that's a tall claim.
And I'm going to say
but
this,
he runs
and
around
I'm
in the
not,
backfield
and
like
I'm going to be like, wow, and a better arm.
Than Mahomes?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so.
At this, you watch.
Let's line them up at the end
to what
zone.
I'm telling you.
All of them are going to throw, and we'll see which one throws it the furthest.
Watch what I tell you. It's uncanny what he does throwing on the move with that hose.
I'm not saying he's not awesome.
And listen, Mahomes is the real deal.
I just think
obviously, right? That's our water's wet moment.
Right.
Yeah. If anybody crashes the party, I mean, who's it going to be? LSU played their way out of it. Clemson's donezo. Like, what are we talking about?
And Ohio State doesn't have the strength of schedule to compete with the rest of the group. Like, even if USC loses, I don't see Ohio State getting in before USC.
You could probably make the case.
Their strength of schedule looks like this. Notre Dame and Penn State. You look at USC, they just won 3 games against ranked teams.
Yeah.
And they also beat Oregon State earlier on, who just beat Oregon, who was competing to play in the Pac-12 championship game.
What were they doing?
Not playing
in the
defense.
Civil War.
And not taking chances either.
Wowzer.
They got too comfortable in that game. It was we get into the red zone and let's settle for a field goal. We don't need to get into the end zone anymore. And then all of a sudden, Oregon State's defense bucks up. Now Oregon's making mistakes offensively, and here come the Beavers.
Did you not watch the state championship on Monday? Well aware how falling in love with great kickers can cost you. Okay? That happens.
Oh, would you feel like you were a member of the Oregon sidelines in that game?
My goodness, you could see it coming. When you get a hot quarterback, and Lord knows the one that we were facing is unbelievable. Like, it makes you nervous, especially as a defensive coach.
And you know what? Another big debate that comes in is if TCU loses, right? And arguments can then be made for Ohio State. And I think even don't jump on me here.
Oh, I will probably if it's a bad take. I was gonna say that.
Really?
I was gonna say that, but man, is this the year that you let a 2-loss team that hasn't been that impressive?
Right? Well, the committee
they didn't even look good against Auburn.
The committee loves Alabama.
And listen, people think Nebraska, their former players, are hard and miserable to deal with. And that may be true. Sorry to some of my fellow brethren. But how about Bama's players like hitting Saban up like, this isn't Bama. you need to fix this. And Saban saying that hurt him,
Right.
cut him to the core. And I was like, see, it happens at Miami. It happens at USC. Like, sometimes us former guys, we're just obnoxious. And we're continuing to make news. Oh, my man, Scott Shanley. Woo!
Hey, we've been taking calls all day regarding Matt Rhule and if he's a good hire or not. We have another caller on line one, Brett, joining the show. Brett, thanks for coming on. What's your take, at least, on Matt Rhule? Is he a good hire or no?
Brett, good morning. Are you there?
Yes.
I can hear you, Brett. How are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good.
And congrats, guys, on the show.
Thank you.
Damon, just want to give you a special shout out and thanks.
I appreciate
the
that.
West Side win. So
Thank you.
our little group of North Platte boys that you were awesome enough to take a picture with, we had a little watch party and watched you guys win. So that was pretty fun for us.
I appreciate that. You guys getting kicked in the teeth that Friday night kind of helped us dial in about how we needed to get a little tougher if we wanted to make a run at this thing.
Yeah. So I actually like the Matt Rhule hire simply for the fact that I think that's the guy that Trev Alberts wanted. He checked all the boxes. Trev talked about discipline, trust, and a builder of men. And those are all the things Matt Rhule does, and that's what he did. So I'm just happy Trev got the guy that he said he wanted. The only concern I would have is the staffing. There's not a lot of historically proven coaches that take staff every stop of the way with that, and it always works out. And so you saw it kind of fall apart there at the end. A little bit with Bayless, a couple guys. You saw it in Carolina, a couple guys leave. And so I hope he goes after the best guys that fit what he wants to do here and not just go with guys that he's trusted at other places.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that take. And, the big thing with that, too, is he's grabbing guys that he trusts right now. And by having those relationships prior to, he's building that family culture early on. And yes, I get the concern of, are they the right guys, though? I mean, they may be his guys, but are they the right guys? But in this case, when you take a coach and you pluck him away from the NFL and you place him back in college with his track record, if he takes the guys that worked at those spots, I can't imagine that they won't work again.
Yeah, and listen, I think those concerns are legit. All right, this isn't Maroon 5. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. It's compromise. Because if I'm Coach Rhule, see, ideally you want DB's chicken nuggets.
Let's get them.
I think you have an administrative team that is really sound, right? And let's hold that thought. We call that in our business. Do we call that a tease?
We call that a tease, but
we call that a tease.
We also have Sam McKewon on next, and maybe we get his take on some of this.
Yeah, I'll pose my hypothetical to Sam I Am and see what happens there.
Hey, he likes green eggs and ham. Coming up next, Sam McKewon of the Omaha World Herald. He's been following this news with Matt Rhule and the Nebraska team all the way through and through. He's next on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. The Morning Dump from Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Sounds like a winner to me. What do you think, DB?
Yeah, I mean, he's got me.
I'm bought in.
Listen, I've seen this, and we'll see what happens today with the press conference. And I know fans are going to be a little reluctant. I get it, just because of the past and being all in and wanting to be optimistic. And I get the trepidation, but I actually think it's healthy all the way around. Moderation, kind of like this guy.
That was Matt Rhule on a College Game Day. We'll get to Sam McKewon here in just a moment, the sports editor of the Omaha World Herald. But, we want your thoughts still on Matt Rhule and if you think he's a good hire or not, because people can throw information your way, or you can, just read a story here or there and get excited about the guy. But is it your guy? Do you feel at ease knowing that he's going to be the guy to lead this team for the next 8 years?
Yeah. We'll see. Shane, do we have him?
Waiting on Sam to get on the phone here, but that's okay. We'll get his thoughts, like I said, on Matt Rhule and if he's really the guy that can dig this program out of the rut, so to speak. But, something else that Matt Rhule said on College Game Day that really stood out to me, and it's something that it's kind of the question that people want answered, and it involves Mickey Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that Mickey did a tremendous job. And, don't look too far into just because he touched on Mickey Joseph, but he didn't have to do that. right? He didn't have to mention that he had a decent relationship with Scott Frost and he called Scott Frost a friend. He didn't have to say that Mickey Joseph did a tremendous job taking over on that call. But he did. And, whether it's a big drop or a little drop, it's a respect thing. And Matt Rhule respects Mickey Joseph. And I think he would be crazy. I don't know if he's feeling any of that hidden pressure. Maybe it's foreseen pressure Nebraska fans will lay on him if he doesn't keep Mickey Joseph around this program. But it would be crazy to just step away from a guy that has such great roots here locally and just great recruiting ties with a lot of kids.
Yeah. So I've done it. I've put together some staffs and been a part of some staffs that have been kind of meshed. And I don't ever want a coach to feel compelled to have to hire anyone because, I tried that in a brief stint and it doesn't always work. So I think what coaches typically do is they start with trust. Who can I trust? Who can I trust? You. That's who, right? Old school. Not to go all Scarface on you this early in the morning. So I think that's what Coach Rhule will do out of the gates, but then try to piece together what it's going to look like in its totality. There's three things that I think you have to hit a home run on early: strength and conditioning, offensive line, and your player personnel guy. See, selfishly, I'm a huge Vince Ginta guy. I thought Nebraska had a home run hire and bringing Ginta on, and he obviously has familiarity with Coach Rhule from when he was at Baylor. And, but I felt like Nebraska was just starting to get on the right recruiting page. I liked Mickey's vision, Coach Joseph. I keep saying Mickey. He's gonna say Mickey. I'm still going with Coach Joseph. So I like kind of that direction. I think that's worth a talk because I think Vince has a layout of the land. I think he knows and he's honest. Like that's the thing that I want this staff to be: authentic and honest. Like Vince called last week, 2 weeks ago. And he's like, DB, hey, we're circling back on a couple of guys at our high school. We felt like, this happened and I wasn't able to do this because this was the majority of my role, but I've been empowered to do this now, and this is the vision. And I want to circle back on, for instance, Jalen Lloyd. And I said to myself, I stopped him right where he was, and I said, you know what, Vince? This is why I think of you the way that I do. Not a lot of guys are going to pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, my bad. We need to get back. We need to circle back. He asked about 3 of our guys. Coach Joseph did the same thing, and they're trying to win games. And coincidentally, Jalen Lloyd now has an offer. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot to think about. He postponed his announcement this weekend. He had his top 4, which were Texas Tech, Florida, Georgia, and Illinois, obviously as a dual track guy. But anyway, I say all that to say those are the guys that can help you establish roots in the region. Because what Matt Rhule has shown is that, listen, at Temple, it was about the Northeast. At Baylor, he established those Texas roots. So hopefully here, he'll establish those Midwest regional roots as well. And listen, that's kind of my plug for guys like Ginta, for guys like Mickey Joseph, because hypothetically, I don't want to tell a coach who he has to have, but man, those guys are worth a sit down to talk to.
Sam McKewon joining us now, the sports editor of the Omaha World Herald. Sam, you just heard everything DB had to say regarding Mickey Joseph and if he can find a way to stay on staff or if Matt Rhule decides to keep him. Do you agree with all that stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's got to work for everybody. So, it's got to work for everybody, and Matt Rhule and Mickey Joseph, need to be on the same page. I think it's probably going to take quite a bit of money to keep Mickey. But you never know. Maybe the offer that Nebraska provides is better than what some other school would provide. And then if Mickey Joseph wants to be a head coach, there's going to be some jobs that are open. FAU is open. Texas State is open. There's going to be some other jobs that are open down in those conferences down there. So he may need to kick the tire on those too. I think deep down Mickey would like to stay, but it's got to work for both parties.
So Sam, let's say, the assistant pool of money sounds like it could be pretty substantial. I think if Trev took True Serum, he's not going to tell Coach Rhule who to hire, but would like to keep Mickey. Could you see $1 million position coach that is not a coordinator?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think that's what the number is. I think that's what the number is.
You've got to get better at paying position coaches more money because they're your best recruiters oftentimes.
Yeah.
You have coordinators, they're important, all right? The X's and O's are important. But I think the money ball move going forward, the thing that you start to think more distinctly about is, what does it look like to start paying assistants the right amount of money for their ability to attract players to a school and to keep them there? Not that coordinators aren't important, but there's a value that's been put on X's and O's when Jimmys and Joes, so to speak, are what win and lose your football games. And so I think if Rhule is looking at this thing the right way, I think you're probably going to try to pay some guys to come in and be really, really good recruiters. I think Mickey Joseph can be one of those guys. Obviously, Texas A&M's defensive line coach, Elijah Robinson, who's worked with Matt Rhule before, he's getting paid a lot of money to recruit. Now, he might be, the best defensive line coach in the country. I don't think he is. I think he's a great recruiter. So he's paid really well by Texas A&M to do that. So I think that's the new direction of the sport. I think, and the other thing that I have seen happen is you get head coaches who are really, really good recruiters and they get head coaching jobs, and that's not a great fit either. Sometimes you get these guys who are really dynamic at building relationships, but are not, maybe don't coach the coaches as well, or manage the football game in the way that some guys may manage a game. And this is where I think the industry needs to shift, is toward making sure that guys that are really gifted recruiters are compensated in the right way, but aren't necessarily elevated to head coach because you need to keep them in the fold. And I think that's something that they'll be, that you'll see happening as years go on. We'll see if Nebraska is able to come together with Mickey Joseph here in the next, 48 to 72 hours.
We're chatting with Sam McKewon, the sports editor of the Omaha World Herald. You can give him a follow on Twitter at SWMcEwenOWH. Sam, we mentioned money early on, or you mentioned money, I should say, early on in that answer. And Matt Rhule gets 8 years, $72 million, which is leaves a little bit of an uneasy feeling for a lot of Nebraska fans, seeing a bunch of money thrown toward a head coach so early on, but that puts him in the top 10 for highest paid coaches in the NFL. 2 questions here for you. What does that say about Trev's belief in Rhule? And secondly, do you feel that he's worthy of that type of money?
Let's see how the contract is structured. Let's see if the back end is where the money kicks in. If the back end is, what we envision it to be, then numerically, then I think it's probably fairly telling as to, what kind of success Rhule would have if he's getting that kind of money. If Matt Rhule's still here in 8 years, they've won a lot of football games. And so the money that he's getting on the back end will have been worth it. I don't know what it's going to look like on the front end. Is it going to be, $9 million each year? Or is it going to be a situation where it starts at 7, then goes up progressively, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, that kind of progression. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see them having a little bit of a back end quality. So we'll see how that goes. If he wins, he's worth it. Yeah. Because Nebraska, so much of Nebraska athletics and the University of Nebraska as a whole is fueled by the success of the football program. And so, whatever he can do to bring that back, even at 8 or 9 wins a year, will be positive. And then the other thing about Rhule, the added bonus that he comes with, is he's going to do a lot of stuff in your community.
Yeah.
He's going to be a guy that's out there talking to people, and he'll probably have a nonprofit somewhere. That wouldn't surprise me. He'll be a part of the community, and we have to be honest. Scott Frost did not do a ton of that. Like, that was not his thing. And what was interesting in hindsight, being 2020, about Scott is one of the reasons he wasn't a fit for the program. He just wasn't a very public-facing person. He just didn't really love that part of the job, and he didn't do a lot of it. His heart may have been in the right place, but the evidence suggested that he really just liked to coach, then go home and not do a lot of the things that I suspect Matt Rhule will do. So I think that part is notable and will be an added bonus for a guy like Rhule.
Hey, Sam, let me ask you something. As you've kind of seen the landscape of college football over the last couple of days play out, and you get the bombshell in Madison, and Coach Leonard obviously was – everybody's using the term blindsided, as we've seen on social media. Are you surprised with how well Nebraska finished the season in terms of their effort and energy level and looking like a well-coached team? You get the upset in Iowa City. That Trev got his guy. He pulled off the search, did it without relative distractions, all while supporting an interim coach, given he was potentially could have been in a bidding war with a couple of not Johnny come latelys, guys that were apparently on the open market that weren't rumored until about 5, 6, 7, 8 days ago.
Yeah, I think he did a pretty good job. Again, Rhule's going to cost a lot of money, and people look at the price tag. Luke Fickell's probably going to come down today and cost less. There's a huge risk that Wisconsin took. I commend them for doing what they think is right. That'll be a risky move there. I think a lot of players will be really upset, and I'm sure that Leonard believed that he was going to be the head coach. All the media there did.
Yeah,
that was the indications of it, and the players believed it. And so the fact that now they have to wrap their heads around a different guy is not going to be easy for them. At Nebraska, I think there was never any definitive impression that Mickey Joseph was going to be the guy. And so I never got that sense. I'm sure some of the players would have liked that, but I never felt like that was going to be a defining characteristic of that locker room. I appreciate that they played hard. It helps that you have Wisconsin and Iowa at the end of the year. Teams you had to beat, kids motivated to play them. But I thought they also played very well and very hard. And I thought it was a really commendable end of the season. Even the performance at Michigan, I know they lost 34-3. It was a commendable performance. They played hard and they played well for much of that game without any chance of winning because their offense was so hamstrung. So, I think you have to look hard at what Nebraska's done and like what you get today. The real work begins, this week and next week. And how does Nebraska attack the transfer portal? How do they attack the recruiting question? If it were me, I'd keep the 2023 class pretty modest, pretty small, and largely focused on kids inside the state and in the 500-mile radius. I would not try too hard to sign 30 guys, and they may have the temptation to do it. It's just that we've seen that when Nebraska does that and kids don't know much about Nebraska, the kids don't stick around. And so I think they need to be really modest this first cycle. And then you sign 33 guys in the next cycle. But we'll see what they do in the next month and a half. Maybe they'll go the completely opposite direction, and I'll be wrong.
Yeah, this is so interesting in more ways than one, obviously, with what's going on in my household. Regionally as
right,
well,
yeah.
Right? So so I'm listening, and I'm like, this is gonna get interesting in a hurry around the region. But let me ask you this, Sam: when you look at the way that Nebraska played on Friday, given what Iowa was bringing, what was on the line for Iowa, and it was a little uncharacteristic, especially with the penalties and turnovers. And I know Petrus was hurt early, but was that more about Nebraska? Were you more impressed with Nebraska or more wondering what was going on with Iowa?
Nebraska, Bill Busch had a good plan.
His job has been so underappreciated, Sam. Do we realize the job that he's done in only getting them one more win? Like, he's been unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a really good job. And so free runners are free runners. Iowa obviously needs to pick them up, but they forced those turnovers, which is commendable. And then the muff punt was probably the play where you're like, Iowa's feeling it a little. They were a little nervous, and that kid's trying to make a play at his own 10 and didn't need to. And but yeah, I think Nebraska made that game the way it was. They played aggressively. They took chances. They brought corner blitz. They threw it deep to Trey Palmer. They trusted that their receivers were good enough to beat Iowa's secondary, and they were right. So I think a lot of that was about Nebraska. Obviously, Iowa does not have the healthy skill players needed to beat many teams. And Iowa did not go to the transfer portal. They did not sign a quarterback in the offseason. They should have. They didn't. They did not add a receiver. They lost one in Charlie Jones. And so they and obviously Keegan is banged up. They don't have the players to score points. They just don't. You could have the best offensive line in the world, but you have to have receivers in the modern college football. They didn't have Sam Laporta. So, Iowa was struggling on offense, and they're probably going to struggle in whatever bowl game they play too. And in the offseason, somebody's going to have to, really exhort Kirk Ferentz to go to the transfer portal. They need to sign 3 receivers and 2 quarterbacks, probably a tight end. Laporta's going to go to the NFL. There's like 100 things they need to do in the portal, and they were reluctant to do it last year, and it bit them.
And that win was a major blessing for this Nebraska program, just striking belief overall moving forward. And then you count your blessings one more time when you add a guy like Matt Rhule. Sam, we have a listener question that was sent in, and I'm going to present it to you. Is it unrealistic to set the expectation on Rhule to make a bowl game in his first year?
No. I mean, that, in the sense that that's always a reasonable expectation in literally every college football program. That's fair. And that's not going to be something that they're going to, shy away from. Yeah, we'd like to make a bowl. Like, no, it's 6 wins. So, you can do it. It's not unrealistic to expect the Nebraska men's basketball team to go to the NIT. That should be a reasonable goal every year, even if they don't make it. So, no, I mean, I think that's fair. I don't know that they will. I think Rhule is going to do it his way. He's probably going to tear some things down.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to build it back up. He's going to have a lot of sayings and a lot of slogans. I don't know how many we're going to hear today, but several. There's a Fleckian quality to Matt Rhule. He's different in the he's a little bit more of a ball coach than P.J. Fleck is. But don't kid yourself. They got a guy that's a good communicator, but has a very clear sense. He'll say the word process a lot. They probably won't cut a lot of corners, and he may tear it down to build it back up. And Damon has more insight here than I do about all of the things that I think Nebraska football needs to do. But one of the areas where they really have to focus hard is not an area that you automatically fix in 1 year, and that's along the line. I think you can make that group better. Certainly through the portal, I think you can make the defensive line better. I'm skeptical as to whether the portal, with the exception of a handful of linemen, can fix anything on the offensive line. And that's for almost any school. Michigan signed a center in the offseason who was really good. He helped, but that whole line is already good. When they just plugged that guy into it, and he's an All-American. He was already an All-American. So it's not magic with the offensive line. That's going to take a couple of years. Defensively, maybe they can get better, but it's going to take some time to reorient this and get it where they want to go. 4-8 or 5-7 wouldn't be a shock next year. And then I think in year 2, you're looking, at 7 or 8 wins. But the schedule is not impossible next year. You can get to 6. Got to beat Colorado. Got to beat La Tech. Got to beat a couple of the other teams later in the season. Got to hope that Wisconsin's starting over, which I think they are. They really are. And you got to hope that Iowa's not that this is the last stage of the Ferentz era, and they're not quantitatively better than they were this.
Sam, we've only got about 60 seconds. Will you look at Nebraska's success next year, given or in relation to the Big Ten West struggling like they are?
You cut out there for a second.
Will you look at Nebraska's potential success next year relative to the struggles of the Big Ten West currently?
Yeah, a little bit. Of course, the division, that'll be the last year of the division, and that's a good thing for Nebraska. I think this division has not done Nebraska many favors. I think what you had is a cohort of teams that were all kind of decided they were going to play the same way, with the exception of Purdue. And Nebraska's style of football under Scott Frost didn't match that at all. And now, with the end of the division, Wisconsin and Iowa are not competing against a cohort of teams in the West. They're going to be competing against Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC, UCLA, all those teams. That'll be good for Nebraska. I think Nebraska will do better in a league where the goal is not to win a West of sausage ball teams, but to win a Big Ten or compete for a Big Ten title with teams that like to, soar.
Hey, thanks, Sam. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Sam.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, let's have some fun, DB.
Fun is good.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency.
Sasha's looking at me. She's like, "You're the president of the No Fun Club." That's not true.
Hey, don't talk about my guy like that.
Samadana over there, Sash.
We'll
She's
play.
like, no.
We'll play Take It or Leave It here for this segment on Coffee and Cream in the morning. Shaner, you're going to hear his voice for the first time today.
Woo.
Shaner
Now,
on headset.
Truth be told, he's the most popular of the bunch.
He is. And you know what? I know I'm the black sheep of this family, but hey,
No,
I'm going to find my way in.
You're already being embraced. Who's the young, good-looking guy? So don't call him good-looking. He already
Don't get to his head.
Yeah, he already thinks that.
Let me air out my ear real fast. Okay,
Yeah,
here
go
comes
ahead
it.
and blow that out.
It's coming out. All right.
Can I do a just a quick take it or leave it that's not on the list here?
Oh, you're asking for permission again?
Yeah, take it or leave it. My voice.
Take it.
No. Okay.
Take it. Hammer it.
Hammer it.
What do we got here, Shane?
We're gonna do take it or leave it. So here's the first one. Take it or leave it. Matt Rhule wins more than 6 games in his first season.
I'll take it. I think, Sam brought up a great point when we just had him on last segment. It's a very, I hate using the word easy.
So it's 5 games?
It's been hard.
We're talking 5 games?
We're talking 5 games. I think it's an easy Big Ten schedule for Nebraska this coming year. I'm going to take it.
Shane, you know that term that he just used drives me crazy. I'm not a schedule look-ahead guy.
Oh,
winning is hard.
It is. And that's why I said I hate using the term easy, because what's been easy for Nebraska as of late?
I'll take the bait. I'll take it.
It's 6 games, right?
He'll get there.
6 games.
He'll get there.
We'll get a bowl game.
I don't know who's going to be taking snaps, but he'll get there. Shano?
U.S. Okay, so take it or leave it. U.S. ties or takes down Iran to move out of the group stage.
I'll take that.
I'll take it.
Iran isn't the best team. I know they beat Wales, but they aren't the best team in this. I mean, you saw what the U.S. did against England, and they still played controlled soccer on the pitch.
Yeah. Even though I think they only possessed the ball for, I think, low 40s, probably 43, 44 minutes. But given the way that first half was trending, to get it back to those numbers were pretty
Hey, I'll tell
good.
you never play for a tie, but in that case, the U.S. was playing to tie because you did not beat Wales. So in any situation, you set yourself in the best spot if you tie England.
I don't love the U.S. in this spot. I'm thinking more of a draw-ish type thing.
Well, they draw, they move.
But, yeah, they're moving on. I'll take it, Shane.
Okay, take it or leave it. Ohio State should still be in the AP top 4.
I'm definitely leaving it. No way.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it too. USC deserves to be there.
So so it's clearly TCU, Michigan, Georgia, and USC. What are we talking about? Yep. USC just continually beats ranked opponents. They're going to get another one in the Pac-12 championship.
You know what's crazy? I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I said if Michigan beats Ohio State, I bet they don't drop out of the top 4. But I did not predict USC to be on the run that they're on.
They didn't look good doing it, though.
No.
Ohio, does Ohio State?
If the game was separated by 3 points or say a touchdown,
well, they just look better doing it.
Do you think they're still in the top 4?
Probably.
See, I don't even know. I bet they aren't.
That wasn't a real competitive second half, in my opinion.
I bet they still aren't in the top 4, even if they are competitive in that game.
Ohio State's out.
They're out.
All right, take it or leave it. Speaking of dropping out, UNC basketball should drop out of the top 10.
10? Ooh, Duke lost. Kansas
and an
lost.
Iowa State lost there.
But look at the teams that lost in the top 10. Gonzaga's struggling. Kentucky doesn't look great.
I don't even know who's in the top 10.
Duke lost, like I said. Kansas lost. Out of the top 10, 2 losses. Sure. But I'll leave it. They'll be at 9 this week with all the other top 10 teams that lost.
So Duke out of the top 10?
No,
Right.
Duke will stay.
You think Duke stays?
Duke stays.
Okay.
I think. Gonzaga's out.
Gonzaga 5-2 overall. Duke 6-2.
Well, I don't know, Shane.
KU
I
has
think,
one loss.
I think by process of elimination this past week in the last 5 days, they'll stay, but it'll be close.
Yeah, dropping 10 spots, the number one team in the nation dropping 10 spots. And one of those was an overtime loss to Alabama. Well,
Yeah.
not one overtime.
So they went 2 of 8 in the last 4 minutes and 28 seconds against Iowa State to cough up a 6-point lead. That's not pretty, but I'm telling you, this Iowa State basketball team is going to be a headache for some people.
I'd be shocked if they dropped 11 spots. So I'm going to say I'll leave it.
Yeah, no more Carolina questions until they win again, Shane.
Was that the most popping of the lines that you saw when it came across Twitter?
Carolina's loss?
Yeah.
No, because I watched the end of that game on the plane, Iowa City, and then I watched Alabama at my kid's game sitting on the baseline yesterday, not being a good dad. So, no, I saw those losses kind of evolving, and I don't love Carolina's depth this year.
Do you watch those games too with the full sound? So like whistles are blaring on your phone and on the court, so it's
No,
confusing
so I
people?
had some AirPods and because I don't like that. So like little kids that like play games on their phone and it's super loud. I want their parents to like get them some headphones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be that
like
guy
the coin, like ka-ching,
that
ka-ching.
forces you to listen to what I'm listening to. I think that's rude.
No kids really playing Mario anymore.
That's why I don't talk on the elevator. Actually, I don't get on the elevator with people, but that's not,
that does not surprise me one bit.
That's neither here nor there.
All right, take it or leave it. Zach Wilson shouldn't start another game in the NFL.
Ever?
Ever.
I'll take it. Get rid of him.
I don't know about that.
I'll take it. Zach Wilson.
They'll be starting White in New York this year.
No.
But
Zach Wilson will be starting in Carolina next year. Let's be real.
No, I'm leaving that. He'll start again.
Let's be real.
He had a bad presser and a crappy first part of the season, but he's got a winning record this year.
He should not start another game for the Jets. I'll tell you that much.
He took responsibility for his comments.
Did you see him on the sidelines though yesterday?
Yeah,
he's Mr. Pout.
He's immature.
He was in timeout all game, and you could tell he was in timeout.
Go to your room, Zach.
Yeah,
Shano.
Hopefully, a mom didn't tell him that.
All right, take it or leave it.
Was it Stacy's mom?
No, apparently, Zach thought she had it going on.
Wowzer.
Take it or leave it. Stacy's mom.
I don't know Stacy, so I'm going to leave it.
You know what? And I don't know her mom, so I'm going to leave it too.
Take it or leave it. Nebraska will be the best team in the West by Rhule's second year.
Oh, my gosh.
The best team in the West?
Not to go all Icors, but I need to evaluate where Iowa is. Because I believe Iowa will be ahead of Wisconsin.
And I think I need to evaluate where Wisconsin is.
And we'll be on par, I think. In year 2?
I hope so.
Gosh, in Fickle they
what
trust.
What about Illinois? Like, is Illinois going to plummet?
I'm not as worried about Illinois.
And then what about Purdue? Like, I know it's kind of weird to say, but Purdue is playing in the Big Ten championship game.
I understand. I still think, and maybe it's by process of elimination, I think Iowa will be the benchmark next year. I do. I don't know who's going to take snaps for him. And I don't know who they're going to throw the ball to.
So I'm going to leave it. Even though it says his second year, I'm still going to leave it. I think it's going to take year 3 for Nebraska.
Year 2 to be the best team in the Big Ten West. I'll leave it, but I don't love it. Because it could be close.
And I think a lot of people are going to like that you say you don't love it.
Yeah, I don't love that take. But I'll play it. I'll be cautiously optimistic. I'll leave it.
Take it or leave it. Cliff Kingsbury is on the hot seat.
Oh, all the way take it. All the way take it. Once that roster gets a good head coach, they could be scared.
I'm going to leave it. I don't think he's on the hot seat just yet. I know it's warming up, but I don't think he's there yet.
Oh, absolutely take it.
DB, they made the playoffs last season.
Listen,
and even though they got run in the playoffs,
Listen,
That was the first time in, 5-6 years that Cardinal team made the
Mr.
playoffs?
Flat Fronts has seen better days. They're in the rearview mirror.
Man, dude, they've been riddled by injuries this year. D-Hop
Who
was
hasn't? It's
suspended
the
half
NFL.
year, but they didn't have their top receiver for half the season.
Oh, Justin Timberlake now. Cry me a river?
Get outta
this
here.
is the NFL.
They're too good of a team to be losing as bad as they are. I
Yeah.
will give you that.
Hey,
I will
listen,
give you that.
Cliff will be somebody's coordinator in 2023.
But you don't go and fire Kingsbury.
Yes,
just
you
because
do.
Things aren't going right this one year.
You
Come
do
on.
realize this is the second half of the NFL season. They'll be lucky to win a game.
Get out. No, Kingsbury's staying.
Oh,
His
man.
seat's warming up, but it's not all the way hot just yet.
Landslide. In a landslide. Stevie Nicks makes a comeback. Wait, is she still with us? Shane, you're the
know
dead or
better
alive
than
person.
me.
Is Stevie Nicks with us?
She's still with us.
Thank you. I
So
didn't
take
want
it
to.
or leave it. Stevie Nicks.
Definitely leaving it. Great song. Not a Stevie Nicks guy, though.
So no Fleetwood Mac.
No. Well,
I'm too young. No Christy McVie.
If Fleetwood Mac would have been acting right, she wouldn't have made Landslide.
No Christy McVie.
I don't even know who that is.
That's the other female singer in Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, like Hagar and
Yeah.
David Lee Roth?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm leaving it.
You could name 10 songs that she sings. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Really?
Swear.
Well, you should be older.
A lot of people are saying that.
Shane-O, I actually like it. It's going to keep us great. How about that?
Take it or leave it. The Heisman Trophy is just like the NFL MVP.
Oh, a quarterback award?
Yeah.
I'll
I'll take it. I'll totally take it.
You're a hater because I'm a voter, so I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it.
It is just like the NFL MVP.
Hey, don't listen to this guy. Absolutely leave it.
Hey, I will say though, I wish Blake Corum stayed healthy all year.
Would you
because
stop
he
with
could
the
have a
Blake
good
Corum thing?
Run at getting it this year.
You liked. How's your boy in Chapel Hill?
Drake May, yes. Hey, you know what? Drake May, he did kind of fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got beat by your rival when you had a chance to really make a statement.
Yeah.
And maybe play your way into a debate.
I mean,
if you would have won the ACC championship.
Caleb Williams, I got to tell you,
Is fantastic.
He is the undoubtedly choice at winning it.
Well, I don't know. We'll see about that.
He is.
Got to close strong. Shane-O?
That it?
That's it.
Hey,
I think
Shana,
he took
thanks
all
so
of
much.
them.
I can't
I'm
believe.
going to check on Twitter.
Can I just go back to this Cliff Kingsbury thing? Is that the hill you're going to die on? It's the flat front, good-looking look, isn't it? It's like that's
but
what.
I feel like I'm really on the border because I said his seat is heating up, but he's not on the hot seat. So it's like I'm kind of like I'm a Quaker in this scenario. I don't really want to be on one side or the other.
Oh, here
just
go,
yet.
here goes Switzerland.
Yep.
Just keep it neutral.
Hey, did you know Switzerland consumes the most chocolate per capita?
Really? Is that why they have the cocoa, or is that made up?
No, I swear.
Isn't it Swiss? Swiss? Is it Miss or Nis?
Swiss Miss?
Somebody? Bueller? Anyone?
Yeah,
All
Bueller.
these smart people in here. Nobody's a friend.
I would assume that's where it came from or where it originated.
I'm not a chocolate guy, so I don't. And by the way, which reminds me, people were talking about the coffee and cream thing. They have said they're so short-sighted. You're the energy, which makes you the caffeine, the coffee.
And
I'm the
you're
creamer
sweet taste.
that makes it palpable.
You're the sweet taste. Come on,
I don't
dude.
know what those
how
guys
hard
were
is it to
thinking.
figure out? Come
Yeah,
on.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Hey, coming up next, a touch of local. Plenty of big things happen this weekend other than just the Huskers hiring a new head coach. We'll branch out and talk some other of your favorite sports next on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah. Little flipper.
Who's Sunshine?
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio. Back with you. What'd you say?
Who's Sunshine?
Oh, you're just singing.
Yeah, you know me. Like music plays, I'm gonna probably give you a lyric.
You know
or
what
two.
movie I watched for the first time last night?
Tell me.
Elvis.
Why?
Well, Ashley, for those out there that don't know, Ashley, my girlfriend, loves Elvis.
Really?
Loves him.
Does
So
she
we
know how
watched the
much
whole movie.
music that guy stole?
Well, yeah, from everybody. He
Jiminy
recreated
Christmas.
in the movie. That's basically what they say. It's like, oh, he hears a woman upstairs singing "Hound Dog," and it's like, oh, I'm going to make that my song.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own. I'm sure I like a couple of sketchy things as well. How was Elvis for you?
It was a great movie.
Would you stop?
It was a really good movie.
This is Hot Take Monday.
What do you mean?
You're on the Cliff Kingsbury hype train, and
You're
Elvis was
saying-
a great movie.
You don't think that was a really well put together production?
Well, full disclosure, I'm not qualified because I didn't watch it.
Well, then what are you talking about?
It's Elvis.
I don't care. I don't care if it's Elvis. I don't care if you like the dude or not. I don't care if you think he's a thief. I thought the movie was really well put together.
So was it like the cinematography? Were you vibing with the music? Are you like a film guy?
no.
Do you use those big words? I have no idea what they mean.
I don't.
What?
I can't talk about big words.
Oh man, this is officially.
Hey, you know what?
This is me in all my
Put your
glory.
personal feelings of Elvis aside. I think you should watch the movie.
Probably not.
It's a good representation of his life.
You know what I did? So I hear that I'm going to be mad at the ending of The Watcher. Have you seen The Watcher?
Yep, I have all the way through.
Okay, I'm on
Do you
episode.
want me to spoil it for you? 'Cause I can.
Absolutely not. I am on episode 5.
How many episodes are there? 8?
I think 7.
Okay. Yes, you will be disappointed
Great. Listen,
because the show sets you up to like really feel like you're going to just get smacked in the face, right? At
Yeah.
the very end. And you know, it kind of just feels like they lost money. Like they had no more money. They ran out of money. And that's how it ends.
wow,
So what I'm saying is it's a big waste of time.
great. Can't wait.
But you know what isn't a waste of time? Talking about some of those other hot local sports here in town. And for starters, I want to sit here and talk about Creighton and Nebraska volleyball because they were picked to host their first and second rounds. The Huskers making their 41st straight NCAA tournament appearance and hosting the first round for the 37th time. Big thing for them is, and you know, everybody knows it, they're looking to avenge last year's finish.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult with the surprising news. So inside, you want to know how the sausage is made? Getting on the plane after Iowa. So we're talking with a lot of the staff, and there's crossover, so they follow all the sports. All the talk was about Kinsey Knuckles.
Really?
Yeah, just the injury and out for the remainder of the season. And I just get the sense people think hopes are dashed with Nebraska's volleyball.
One loss.
She
one,
is
one play.
she is absolutely
you know,
fantastic.
You don't want to take away the product there.
Yeah, and everybody's got to kind of step up. And
it definitely sets them up as more of an underdog mentality when you're looking at the big dogs now.
Yeah.
Right? The rest of the big teams there.
Completely agree.
But, you know, they are on the same side of the bracket as Wisconsin, not in the same region, but in the right side of the bracket. And they could meet in the semis. You know, if Nebraska gets all the way there, they could meet.
So here's the thing. Do you think the committee took Nebraska's health into account? We see it all the time in basketball.
I don't know. They absolutely could have.
Yeah.
Are you saying that from just the stance of because Nebraska kind of has that Alabama mentality of we're going to bring fans, they're going to bring viewers, that they want them in as long as possible?
And it was a little bit of a shaky close for Nebraska's volleyball team.
You lose Wisconsin again, and then you lose to Minnesota in your regular season finale.
Yeah. And then Creighton, the 4 seed in the Stanford region. Kirsten Bernthal Booth is one of the gems.
Was that your neighbor? Who was your neighbor?
Amy Williams.
Amy Williams. Somebody, I knew somebody was your neighbor.
She was Amy Gusso back then, but Amy Williams, Nebraska women's basketball coach, was my neighbor.
Back to Creighton, though. 11th straight appearance for them. And Big East champion. Like you said, the 4 seed, they face Auburn.
Yeah, and a decent conference as you take a look at the respective Marquette got. So, I mean, good on them. And this is what being patient with a head coach has gotten Nebraska. Great hire by then AD Bruce Rasmussen, and all she's done is build a national caliber top 20 program and one of the greatest human beings in the sport. If you can't get along with Coach Booth, 99.9% something's wrong with you.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're led by Big East Player of the Year, I should say, Nora Sis, and she's awesome.
Hey,
she is so talented.
The rest of college volleyball's got to deal with her for another year or two. She is unbelievable.
And, of course,
and a great name, too.
There are 3 other bodies of that on that roster that received all Big East honors, too. So Creighton's nothing to sleep on that side.
No, absolutely. And battle tested. It should be fun. I think of the women's sports, when volleyball is played at a high level, it is the most aesthetically pleasing. It is explosive. I was just talking
exciting. Every play, every moment makes you feel
talking to a family yesterday whose daughter was out at USC, and they were rushing home to get to I'm watching the end of Carolina, Alabama. They're not watching their son's game either. They're trying to get home for the volleyball seedings. It's like we're some great parents. High five together. But it's so explosive. And the training has changed. It is a beautiful thing. I'll return a punt in front of 90,000. I'm not getting on the receiving end of a Lindsey Krause kill.
That ball comes faster than most fastballs.
No, seriously. I prefer, even at 48, I would prefer to go catch a punt.
I remember
in Iowa City than be on the receiving end of a Krause kill.
When I worked in Omaha, I remember the girls in practice pulling out the radar gun for serves. And this is just serving, DB, that was coming in at like 75 miles an hour on a serve. Think about on a kill when you're even closer. It's crazy. One last thing to mention here before we wrap this thing up. Omaha hockey took down the #1 team in the nation and defending national champion Denver over the weekend.
Speaking of likable, and how about that program? Competing against Denver and that athletic budget for those programs, goodness, people think, Omaha could be on a similar flight pattern for a school like Denver. And I'm thinking, wow, we'd have to commit a ton of resources. But Gabs, again, I'm curious.
I'm hopeful we can get him on the show this week too.
Yeah. Well, you know what we should go to? We should go to our go-to person, Anna. She's got the
Amen.
ends. If we want to get something done with Omaha hockey, we need to get Anna on the horn.
What was supposed to be a rebuilding season for this hockey team, it doesn't look too much like that early on in conference play. It may have been non-conference.
Starting to get better goaltending, too.
Yeah,
that helps.
Absolutely. Now, our coffee cups are empty, and, it's time to get on with the day. So thanks for joining us for our very first show, and just know that this is the start of a great journey together.
A blossoming relationship between you and I.
It's one way to put it.
Yeah, well.
If we're going to be soft at the end of the show,
you'll be kicking yourself for what you signed up for.
Hey, if you're itching for more, head over to your favorite podcast app and check out Morning Dump, Benning Bites, and the Sports Six Pack. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal coming your way later on this afternoon on Hail Varsity Radio, so catch them. And with that, we'll see you tomorrow on Coffee and Cream in the Morning, powered by Currency.